Today's guest splits his time between the steelhead-rich waters of the Rogue Valley and the white sand beaches of Baja, Mexico. Some have called this part of Mexico the 900-mile pier because of the rich waters and fishing opportunities all along the coastline. We are joining the mix today to take a tour of Baja so you know which species you can target and have a game plan of how you're going to put together this great trip and focus on some amazing species down in this part of the world. This is the Wet Fly Swing podcast where I show you the best places to travel to for fly fishing, how to find the best resources and tools to prepare for that trip, and what you can do to give back to the fish species you all and we all love. Hey, I'm Dave, host of the Wet Fly Swing podcast. I've been fly fishing since I was a little kid. I grew up around a fly shop, and I've created one of the largest fly fishing podcasts in this country. I've also interviewed more of the greatest fly anglers than just about anyone out there in the podcast space. Today, James Shaughnessy, founder of Beulah Fly Rods, is going to take us into the story of Beulah and how he came to own this great rod company. We also find out how he started the switch rod craze, how that he was kind of involved at the beginning of that, and how that really elevated them among the fly rod companies. And for fishing today, James is going to show us how to find out where the roosters are, how to approach them so you have a shot at catching one, and why you need a steelhead mindset to catch one of these predators that are not too easy to catch. Plus, you're going to find out which fly rods James prefers for summer and winter steelhead, and which rod weight you need for roosters this year. It's always a good chat when we get a hardcore steelheader on the show. So here we go. James Shaughnessy from BeulahFlyRods.com. How you doing, James?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show. You're another one of those brands I've heard a lot about out there over the years, and we're finally getting you on to talk about not only the fly rod company you have going, but also some of the stuff you have going on down in the Baja with Roosterfish. I'm excited about that because that's another place where I think a lot of people want to get to. So before we jump into that on roosters and your rods and everything, take us back to fishing. How'd you get into it? What's your first memory?
Well, fishing-wise, I got started as a kid. I lived in Puerto Rico and used to fish off the beaches there, and I really got obsessed with the being around the ocean. I surfed and snorkeled and we did throw cast net, and had a blessed childhood living on the beach down there until I was in about sixth grade, and then we moved from there to Florida, where again I lived on the intercoastal and started fishing for sea trout and snook and some inshore species there. And it just kind of kept going from there. When my father finally took me, when I was in high school, my father took me out to Montana for the first time fly fishing. When I think I was a sophomore in high school, and I instantly fell in love with it and just kept going from there. I went from there, I went out to college in Arizona, which there, believe it or not, there's some good fishing around there. Up in New Mexico, you have the San Juan River and some other places. And my then girlfriend, now wife, and I would take trips up to Idaho and spend a couple weeks and catch them and drive up into Montana and fish and fly fish. And during that time, since we were in Tucson, we would vacation in Mexico. It's only an hour or so to the border, and we drive along the coast there and fish. And I'd bring along fly rods, and I started fly fishing down there in saltwater, and eventually made it over to the Baja, I think about 1985. And probably the first time I got the fish there. And I went to a spot where I still go today and outfit people today. And, been fly fishing ever since like mid 80s down there. And as time went on, we were commuting back from college and going down there fishing, and I started bringing people out, guiding them and stuff, and camp trips out at this beach. And after college, I moved up to San Francisco, where there's some really spectacular fly fishing on the McCloud River. Spent a lot of time fishing trout there, and Hack Creek and a lot of the rivers around that area, which are absolute spectacular blue ribbon rivers. And did that through the 90s, and then moved up to Southern Oregon and fell in love with steelhead. And that's where I started Beulah Fly Rods. I moved up there. We lived in the city for about 10 years. And when we moved up to Southern Oregon, we just kind of wanted to get out of the city. And maybe start a family and get to a more country kind of lifestyle. And the Rogue River's right here, and fell in love with steelheading. And there wasn't much to do job wise, and I started guiding here, and I had a couple of clients on board that, at the time I was just, looking for something to do and guiding. And you'd be amazed at how many job offers and ideas you get when you have clients in the boat that you can, start a friendship with. And kind of a couple crazy opportunities sprung from that. One, which was Beulah Fly Rods, and the other was farming chilies in Mexico. But I did both of.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you still doing the farming the chilies?
No, the chili thing was short lived. Very colorful part of my life, but I'm obviously still down there doing guided trips down there, and building Beulah Fly Rods up here has been what I've been doing for the last 20 years.
Right. Wow. And I want to talk more about the Baja, but on the rods. So what would you say is your specialization? I know you do a lot now, but when you first started out, what were you guys producing?
Well, I've kind of gone through the whole gamut of different fishing, saltwater. I was obsessed with that. I still am obsessed with it. Trout was my thing. Like I said, when I lived in California, we traveled to Idaho, Montana, so I was obsessed with that. I worked in fly shops, and I've guided here and there. And so I kind of was exposed to a lot of fly rods over the years. And Medford and the Rogue Valley actually has several really good custom rod builders here.
Yeah.
And, as time went on, I kind of met them and I got advice from them, and started getting blanks and working with them on some of the designs, and eventually started, kind of taking it under my own arm and designing these things with, Bruce Berry is a sales rep of mine that has been a big help in some of the design, and some of the shop owners in the Northwest, are good advisors on spay rods, and that's kind of how it started. Was really what put us on the map was the switch rod, because at the time, 2005, we had a series of switch rods, which there are people making them at that time. Bob Meiser was one of the people that started making those, and there were a couple other people, but no one had really made a whole series of them, and we decided to make, a commercial series of them. And of course we had trout rods as well. We had some spay rods, being from Oregon. And, I went to the tackle trade show in Denver in 2005, and we were, one, if not the only, with a whole series of switch rods, and it got us a lot of attention. So that's kind of, I think, you see a lot of companies come and go, but that was kind of innovative, and, the way it was put out there. And that made it stick. And, from there were no fly lines for not any really commercially produced fly lines for switch rods at that time. So that was another thing that, we came up with. And that was the help with Bruce and John at the Deschutes Angler, who had some input on that. And when those lines came out, they really flew off the shelves, because there was nothing else out there for that kind of rod. And other companies started producing switch rods. And, eventually the lines came around, but back then there weren't any specifically designed for switch rods.
Right. In 2005.
2005, yeah. 2005 to 2010, I think we had some big burst for us with the lines. And, that popularized our two-hand rods and the spay rods. And so that's been a big part of our kind of a base sales. And
right. What were those lines called? What were those lines called back then?
There was the Elixir was our Scandi line, and we still have them, and the Tonic was our Skagit line for them. And they're, basically just short, size down for shorter rods.
For shorter rods. Gotcha. So take us back there in 2005. Where did the switch rod, that idea, let's just talk the name, the name of the switch rod.
I think Bob Meiser might have coined the phrase switch rod, from what I know of it. And he was certainly a big influence here in the Rogue Valley, and helped with some of the early Beulah stuff. And, we've just kind of stuck with it and expanded it to different sizes, and, changed lengths a little bit over time. And it's been through, I think, 3 generations now of different switch rod series that we've done. Different materials, different flexes, different sizes.
is the switch rod name, is it still, because it seems like maybe you don't hear this. What's another name for a switch rod if you didn't call it a switch rod?
I think most people call them switch rods.
Yeah.
Having a short two-hander or, but the concept is switch between being able to use it single hand and two hand. But, anything under 11 feet, you might consider a switch rod.
Okay, under 11 feet. I've also heard people say that if you can cast it without trouble, then if you could do both, right? Do the spay and then, but you could cast it all day long with a single hand.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's what the true switch concept is.
Yeah, good. So that's it. Wow. So that brings us way back in. And so spay, obviously, the rogue. And we did have an episode not too long ago with John Hazlitt. We talked all rogue. We had a whole thing, and he talked about the area he guides, I guess, more in the upper river. I've done a lot more floating of the lower, like the canyon set, the wild and scenic, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is a little different.
Yeah, I fished both the coast and I live in Medford, so we're up on the kind of the middle upper section. But I guided for Morrison's, which is down in Marlin, in the middle section, some great spay water down there. So, and I fish at the coast in the wintertime. So all over it. Yeah, it's a lot of rivers around here, within a couple hours, you can hit all kinds of stuff.
Right on. Nice. Well, we'll have a link out in the show notes to take a look at your website and all your lineup with rods and lines and everything. But I want to just touch on, a couple things. First, what you have going down in the Baja. We just did an event, actually, the giveaway event, which we're kind of, we're looking back now, but we're working on doing a trip down to Belize, which is a totally different thing. But you're giving away a rod as part of that program and that big partnership that we're doing. But what you have in Baja, maybe talk about that a little bit. You've been doing this a while. Maybe describe the Baja for somebody who hasn't been down there. What can they expect? Are there lots of places to fish on the Baja for roosters?
Yeah, I think it's the best place in the world to fish. I'm a little bit biased, but it's been described as a 900-mile pier. The beaches are just lined with all kinds of different species, and that the Sea of Cortez gets very deep, and it's a big entrance from the Pacific for pelagic fish to come up in there and spawn and feed. So you get a lot of sport fish in there, marlin, things like that are in close to shore. Because a lot of the bait fish are in close, and you don't have to go on long boat rides to get to these big fish. That's the beauty of it. Roosterfish, are right on the beach, and you get 70-pound roosterfish cruising the beaches there. And I've caught billfish within a half mile ashore and tuna and stuff like that. It's just one of the magical things about that place is how quickly the bottom drops off and these pelagic fish come in so close.
Oh, right.
And it's very accessible. It's, it's a couple hour flight away. The people are all friendly. It's safe. The beaches are free to the public. So, if you want to fish from the beach, you can just about anywhere. Yeah. Weather's killer. I know it gets a little hot in the summer, but, I've just caught everything I want to catch there, except, they're not tarpon swimming around. So you have to go somewhere else. But,
it seems like, I mentioned Belize. There's lots of places down in South America and all over the place that you could fish. We've talked about some of them all the way down and even down to Patagonia. This is such a close place, the Baja, right in our backyard, essentially. Why do you think, or maybe is it getting more popular? Do you feel like it's getting, the recognition that the other places get?
Yeah, Cabo San Lucas has always had, bait fishermen go in there and kind of party town and, go out on a boat and catch a big marlin kind of a thing. But I think, and again, it's a double-edged sword for me. I love the solitude that you can find in Baja, but I'm an outfitter too, and I want people to come. But the roosterfish is certainly climbing the ladder as popular, exciting fish, and so that's bringing a lot of people. And it's not an easy thing to do. It's especially when people want to target them from the beach. It's a very difficult thing to pull off, and you need a lot of luck and timing and things like that. But those kind of challenges are a big draw for people.
That's right. The harder the fish, the all the species, the muskie, the permit, the steelhead, it seems like the harder it actually draws more people. And rooster, how hard is it? How would you compare it to those other species on, difficulty of getting one and stuff like that?
Well, they're difficult no matter what. Certainly from the boat and using bait to, live bait to attract them makes it a lot easier. But even in that case, they're one of the harder fish to catch, if not the hardest fish to catch, even if you're throwing live bait out. you'll get rejection after rejection after rejection. And you've got to be able to time your casts right, and how to strip right, and sometimes not strip at all. They're really sharp fish, and they'll come charging the fly and see it at the last minute, turn away, and you're like, what did I do wrong? And it's a lot different than, like, say, a jack crevalle or something like that are more kind of lesser intelligence, I'll say, or less aware, and they're kind of more charge and eat whatever's moving, but not so with a roosterfish. And so, I've had people that are good fishermen come down, and even with the, teasing them in or using live bait to get them closer to the boat, they'll struggle for a couple of years without catching one and get frustrated. It's trickier than most people think. But from the beach, it's a whole nother level. I mean, it's like, getting lucky like you would with a steelhead, winter steelhead fishing. There's, it's all opportunistic. These things are cruising the beach, and you've got to be in the right place at the right time when they come in, and they've got to be in the right mood. You can't spook them. You've got to be able to cast when there's a wind in your face and there's waves breaking. So, I mean, stepping on dead puffer fish on the way down to do it. It's a lot of things going on. So to pull it off, it's, you've got to be dedicated or super, super lucky. And it's a great, great challenge. So it's super rewarding because
that's awesome.
They're amazing animals.
Amazing. Yeah, they're beautiful fish. We could talk a little more about that, but so maybe talk about that for the operation you have going down there. What does that look like? Do you run these things different types of lengths of trips, or what, if somebody wanted to meet down there, what would that look like?
Yeah, well, so the spot like I said, I've been going there since I was in college, and it's now, I used to bring people from La Paz and drive out there for years, and now I've partnered with what used to be a private home, but it's size of a lodge. There are 19 rooms, and I have it booked out during the prime fishing months. And, we've done some pretty big groups there, but, mostly we have probably five or 7 boats going out on a good week. And, we try and keep the trips to, either 5 days fishing, 6 nights, or else 6 days fishing, 7 nights. And I do that May, June, and July. And I come back after the hurricane season in October, although that hurricane season is pushing to late September now, but, back there in October, and then I also guide on the Pacific, do trips on the Pacific side in Mag Bay for November and December. So I'm down there 5 or 6 months out of the year.
Stonefly nets, nestled in the heart of the Ozarks, Ethan, a master craftsman, dedicates his skill to creating the finest wood landing nets. Stonefly nets are more than just nets. They are part of our story, each cast and every cast. Ready to make your fly fishing trips unforgettable? Visit stoneflynets.com and discover the difference of a handcrafted wood landing net. Drift along the current with us for a moment. Ever wondered where to find unparalleled fly fishing gear? In a world full of ordinary, Jackson Hole Fly Company stands out, merging innovation with affordability. They've redefined the online fly shop experience with their own line of high-quality rods, reels, accessories, and tools. Not to mention over 1,000 hand-tied fly patterns. Discover fly fishing gear that doesn't compromise, impeccable quality, yet surprisingly affordable. Discover the magic of Jackson Hole Fly Company. And remember, every great story starts with a cast. Visit Jackson Hole Fly Company today. Maybe talk about the Baja, the trip, or getting ready for the trip. What does that look like? Let's just take it to maybe the 5 day, 6 night sort of thing. They're meeting down. This is pretty easy, 2-hour flight down from wherever in the States, the West. Pretty easy to get there.
Yeah. It's a couple hours flight. Most people fly into San Jose, and then there's a van ride up to the lodge. And, everything is on site there. There's a restaurant on site. There's a bunch of pools, white sand beach. It's very secluded, and everyone there is in the group fly fishing. And you can catch them roosterfish right off the beach in front of the place. I've landed 40, 50-pound roosterfish literally right, 100 yards from my beach, from my bedroom. And so there's, nice snorkeling and stuff. The boats come up in the morning and pick us up on the sand out in front in the morning, depending on what people want to do. If someone wants to fish the beach, we can go do that. I have a Jeep to go run down the beaches and chase them that way. But usually people are coming down if they're only there, 5 days. They'll go out in the pongas, and there's, like I said, it kind of goes seasonally. The fish start filling in from late April, May, June. You get warmer water, and different species come in. Dorado and billfish will come in kind of later in the season, where jacks and roosterfish or early spring. Right about now, they're starting up down there, and but they'll go all the way through the season. And so people decide how they want to fish, what they want to fish, and we send them off with the captains that I've been fishing with for 30 years now. And what's nice about that area is there's a lot of ground to cover, a lot of area for people to get away and find their own water. The island, Cerralvo Island's out there, and it's, I think, 20 miles long, and it's just filled with bays and beaches, and roosterfish are up and down it, so you can go out there and, there's two sides of it. They're loaded and find fish there, or we go down as far as Pescadero over to the La Ventana side. So there's an incredible amount of area to cover. You can go offshore. There's different banks offshore, 20 miles out, 30 miles out, that have big sea mountains and plateaus that drop off, and you get billfish and big dorado out there. So there's a lot of stuff. At the end of the day, they come back in, and you've got pools to chill at, and air conditioning, and very nice lodge. So it's very comfortable.
Pretty nice. You mentioned the pangas that you're going out on, the boats.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like when you're out on these boats? Maybe describe that as you get into the fish. How do they find the fish out there, and what does that look like?
Well, a lot of times, I'll go down a week or two before and scout things out. But there's some spots that you can count on for fish being there. They're spawning. I think they're kind of pre-spawn areas, and they're bait fish around in several areas where, after 30 years of doing it, you have your hot spots where you can go check on fish, or you can go explore and look for bait. And if there's, you've seen pelicans diving on schools of sardines, there's going to be fish around there. And so you can go fish those areas too. But, generally that's one way to find it, is find where the bait is and fish there, or go to these hot spots and check it. And that's part of what they're doing with, the captains will throw plugs without hooks on them, or, bring some live sardines and throw those out, and if they're fish around, they'll find them and show up.
Oh, gotcha. So that's it. So you throw some bait out there, and then the roosterfish and everything else are going to show up?
Yeah, they'll pop up, and then you stop the boat and kind of, either start throwing the plug, or when these fish come in chasing these sardines, you're target shooting to them.
Gotcha. What is the, they've got that really cool, unique dorsal fin. Do you know why that's such this amazing fin? Why do they have that?
I think it's I see them using it for corralling bait. I've watched them.
Oh, yeah.
If you see it a lot of times, and it's one of the prime shots for a roosterfish, when they're chasing these sardines, and what they'll do a lot of the time is come up on it, put that comb up, and then swirl around it, and they put the sardine into kind of a vortex where it's helplessly swirling there, and then either they'll turn around and come back and grab it, or one of their buddies will be right behind them and come through and grab it. So if you can, and they'll do these kind of toilet flush swirls, and that when they hit on one of these sardines, and if you can pop your fly into that circle in, a split second, that's probably one of the highest percentage shots of getting one with that technique of fishing.
Yeah. What is the fly? What are you using? Maybe talk about that a little bit, the fly and the gear.
From the, usually from the boat, you're matching the hatch, and they're usually throwing out sardines. They're like 2 or 3 or 5 inches long, and, tan and white, or olive and white, silver and white, depending on the time of day and the light. From the beach, you're going with a little bit larger fly, because they're really coming in kind of looking to attack and then get back out as quick as they can. So in some ways, you're trying to get their attention, especially if they're hitting on a school of ladyfish, which are bigger. They'll charge in and rush our mullet and rush these things. And, you'll see them with the fins up and the mullet jumping out of the water and going crazy. And you've got to somehow stand out to those other baits and put it in the right place at the right time, and hope they see it and are attracted to that, when they're just trying to chase something down quickly. So I tend to use, 6-inch or even 8-inch flies from the beach.
And then once you cast it, so let's just take it to the beach. If you're on the beach and you see, is that typically what you do? You'll see the fin of the fish. How do you know when the rooster's there?
Well, they don't stick the fin up until they're in attack mode. So a lot of times when we're cruising down the beach, you're looking for dark torpedoes, kind of cruising along the beach, or, ladyfish schools or sardine schools or something like that. You can watch how they're reacting and moving around. If they're happy and they're relaxed, they're kind of spread out and loose, and then if there's something in it, because a lot of times you won't see the roosterfish, they kind of go into stealth mode, and they'll pull up on these schools of fish, and you'll just see the school kind of get darker and darker, and all of a sudden they'll split because something's cruising through them. And a lot of time they'll casually cruise through and check them out, but when they attack, they're obviously just going nuts and moving, and the fin comes up and everything bursts open. It's
wow,
super exciting to say the least. But when we used to camp out there, I went snorkeling once, one of the first times in the 80s that I saw them, and there was a school of sardines on the beach in front of us, and I went out and snorkeled, and I noticed that they're kind of getting corralled and coming closer. And I see these fish circling. They're like 5 roosterfish circling around this thing and making it closer and closer and closer. And then all of a sudden they all just start Xing through this tight ball of bait, and, nothing but scales and fish jumping, and super exciting. I swam back in and grabbed a fly rod and threw it out and caught one.
Oh, wow. You got one.
My first roosterfish. Yeah.
No kidding. God.
Yeah.
So they're coming in to get the bait, and you see the fin eventually comes up when they're in attack mode. And then, so it sounds like you just cast your fly out, and I mean, is it kind of pretty random? Like, are you trying to get it within a certain distance of where you think the fish is, or is it just kind of a mad mess of things going on?
Oh, I mean, it's all of that. If you're, sometimes you'll see them cruising down the beach looking, and then you don't want to spook them, because it's easy. You can spook those fish fairly easy if you're on the bank standing up and waving your arm around with a fly rod. They're just going to go out. But if you you see them coming, you can lay the fly out there and kind of crouch down and wait till they get closer to it, and you kind of surprise them and strip it like a scared fish, and they'll chase it down and eat it. Other times, you'll see them coming in on a bait ball and chasing it, and then you're going to just try and time it so that you're going to get them when they're going to turn and see your fly and not the bait. But
right,
yeah,
wow.
It's exciting. They're definitely more aggressive and less picky when they're doing that, but you've got to perform in the moment, because it's literally split seconds and then they're gone.
Right. And you're sitting there as the wave, you're just kind of right on the edges. The waves are coming in, and they're out just past the breakers a little bit, or how far are you casting?
Oh, no. In this particular area, it's fair weather and fairly calm, so you're in clear water and sea.
Oh, right.
It's not, there can be waves, but generally it's not. It's not like the Pacific side, which there are roosterfish on the Pacific side, and I've caught plenty of them on that side as well, and there are waves. But what we're talking about on the Sea of Cortez side, you have generally calm weather a lot of the time, and if there are waves, it's not super challenging like the Pacific.
Yeah. So you're on the Sea of Cortez. So you're from La Paz. You're east, basically, on that side.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. And that's a totally different deal. Gotcha.
Yeah, the Pacific, you're definitely facing waves, and but same scenario. They're cruising, and there you can do a lot of blind casting and catch them on some Pacific areas.
Yeah. If somebody was, obviously we're going to put some links out to where they can connect with you and stuff, but if somebody was heading down there on a DIY sort of thing, what would be a few tips you'd give, maybe 2 or 3 tips you'd give somebody to have a shot at a rooster?
Well, first of all, the best tip is to have kind of the same mentality you would with winter steelhead, and just have no expectations. You're going down there to just enjoy the place you are and the opportunity to do this, because you're probably not going to catch a fish. Then, there's so many white sand beaches and points and things like that is what you're looking for. They like white sand beaches. There's some, very popular spots down there now that have kind of gotten a little too much pressure, but there's a lot of places still that are wide open. You can be by yourself up and down the East Cape. I'm not going to give specific spots, but almost all the beaches on the East Cape have roosterfish and have opportunities for roosterfish. And as well on the Pacific side. The Pacific side is a little harder to get to, and you are facing waves, and you have to be a little more weather conscious over there. But the East Cape, you can get really lucky on those beaches. The fish are there, this time of year through October. Really, this is the main place in the world to catch one. So I would, you'd have to have the right flies. You have to be able to cast quickly. You have to be stealthy with them. You have to have a lot of backing, because you could get a big fish and good top gear. But yeah.
What's for you? You have the rods. I mean, what is the rod you'd recommend for roosterfish of yours?
Well, I'd recommend a Beulah G2 10 weight. It's a fantastic rod. I usually use 10 weight because it casts great, it can fight great. Our 12 weight is light enough to use it, and if you were, if I knew that I was just going to be facing 60-pound fish, I might cast a 12 weight. You're not going to cast it a lot most of the time, but a 10 or 11 weight are adequate. And you have to. It's more about the fly. You have to be able to cast a 6-inch fly or an 8-inch fly, mullet pattern or something like that.
That's the pattern that you'd be fishing, some type of mullet pattern?
Yeah, from the beach, a mullet pattern, or big kind of tan and white with a little olive in it or something like that.
Yeah, and then when you cast that, it's just kind of, is that pattern kind of sinking down a bit, and then you're just stripping, or like you said, stripping it?
Exactly. I mean, poppers can work too if you really want to go for it. If they're really busting on bait, you can get some attention with a popper, but those are harder to cast, and it's really a standard 6-inch fly mullet pattern or large sardine pattern is what you'd use.
Yeah, there it is. Okay. So fairly, I mean, not a lot to it. Obviously, you got to get lucky and get in the right place at the right time. But if you do get a shot and you see some fish, that sounds like being stealthy, sneaking up, and then kind of, if you can, laying out your fly, predicting where you might think that fish is going, and then go for it.
It's going to turn too. I mean, they're quick to turn, but there's different scenarios. Like I said, sometimes they're coming in. Where I run my trips, there's a bay in front of us, and a lot of times I'll sit on the deck and just watch. And if you see a school of ladyfish come into the bay and into that beach, you get your rod and you go down there, because eventually a roosterfish is going to show up there, and they'll push them up onto the beach within casting distance, and you just have to be patient and watch it. But it usually happens, and you can see them. The water's really clear. So finding bait is a great call too. Sometimes I'll see a school ladyfish and I'll just follow it down the beach.
Right. And then the boat, so that's kind of the off the beach, and the boat is a little bit different in that you're kind of tracking down fish and then kind of getting a place that is good off a drop off, and then you're using bait to kind of chum the water, sort of thing. Yeah,
you're cruising to beaches that historically have had them there. Most of them have, but there are some hot spots, and if there's schools of sardines bunched up on, out at the island or something like that, you're probably going to find roosterfish out there, and jacks, and, other fish. But, I think there are places where they're eventually spawning, and in July, I've seen them cruising paired up, and they won't pay any attention to the bait. They won't pay any attention to the fly. And I've seen them where I can, paired up, coming in with their backs out of the sand. They look like they're spawning like salmon do. And
really?
Yeah, and you could just grab them.
And they're spawning where are they spawning? Like right in the shallows?
I think they're spawning in the sand. I mean, there's not much research on them, but I can't think of what else they're doing. I see them paired up like that, and kind of, with their backs halfway out of the water, and just kind of paired up together tight and doing the shake.
Wow. Yeah, so that's probably, and we will have to get somebody on, the roosterfish person, to describe, kind of more of the life history and all that. But it's interesting. It's definitely a beautiful fish. It's got it almost looks like some of those other big fish that a lot of people like, the giant trevally, right?
Yeah.
The GTs. I mean, it's got a similar head. Is that, are they in a similar, lot different?
No, they used to be designated in the jack family, and I think they've broken them out to their own genus now.
Yeah. They're different.
Yeah, I've never fished for GTs, but I've had people that come, and when the roosterfish gets in the 60-pound range, they say they fight harder than I've heard than GTs. And I've certainly tussled with plenty of them over 60 pounds, and they're a very strong fish, and a crazy fight too.
Huh? Do they jump a lot?
They don't jump a lot, but occasionally you'll get one that do. They're more just kind of erratic direction changes and long blistering runs, and back to the boat. They might run off 100 yards back and then turn back to the boat and charge right back towards you, or go right up onto the beach, and you'll see them in the wave breaking on the beach. And they're just a very cool and smart and fun fight too.
And are you pretty much landing most of them when you hook into them?
Well, yeah.
You're not losing a lot of fish out there.
No, but it's easy to lose them. I mean, if you catch, they're leaders. A lot of times they're leader shy, especially from the boat. So, sometimes you have to go down a 20-pound test and there can be, 50, 60-pound fish around. And, sometimes I found even if you had a little bite guard at the front of that, 6-inch, piece of 40 or 50 in front of that, they won't take the fly until you take it off and just go straight fluorocarbon 20 or something like that. And, if you have a big fish like that, he goes down and he's doing circles, fighting you for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and circling around. They have like kind of abrasive sandpapery mouths, and that line is just rubbing back and forth over it. And sometimes we pull those fish on the boat, and it's like, wow, this is down to like 6-pound test. It's rubbed away so much. My wife has a couple of records for them, and she fought one that's still probably one of the biggest ones I've ever seen landed on 20-pound, and she fought it for over 3 hours, and
wow.
Went out to deep water, and so she couldn't do much with it. And we were so lucky to get it to the, we finally got it to the boat and pulled it onto the deck. The line was literally like probably 6 or 8 pounds. It had been worn through so much.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So he was lucky.
How big was the fish?
Well, that's kind of a story in itself, but we were, by the time we got it, we were close to shore, into the boat. And so we put it in the live well with a hose and ran him to shore and started reviving him as we got to shore. And, spent time reviving him, and then we did the weighing and measuring of it for the IGFA, got him back on the water. My boga grip only went up to 60 pounds, and it bottomed out the boga grip, but the measurements put the fish at like 80 pounds or so. They have a calculation you can do with girth and length, and all the captains said it was, in the 80s. And, the IGFA only gave her 60 pounds, which is a little disappointing.
No kidding.
Yeah, I've got a new scale now.
Oh, have there been other fish landed bigger than that?
Not that I've seen, but I've landed some monsters, and people are landing them. They're there. They're there. The biggest all tackle records come from the East Cape, so that's where they are. So
you could get a fish in the 100-pound range potentially.
Yeah, I think the all tackle record is something like 114 pounds. And I personally have seen 100-pound fish swimming next to the boat. And
it sounds like they're distributed all the way around the Baja. How far out do they go, like around the world or in the area, the region?
They find them on the west coast of Mexico. I think they'll go all the way as far down as maybe Peru.
Oh, wow.
Then they're obviously on the Baja, and I've seen them all the way up to East Cape. I've only fished for them as far as Mag Bay, but there are plenty of them in Mag Bay. I think as the water gets colder north, they kind of peter out.
Get ready to explore the wild with Northern Rockies Adventures. Imagine yourself surrounded by pristine waters, towering mountains, and the thrill of landing a trophy fish like the majestic Arctic grayling or the elusive bull trout. With over 40 years' experience guiding anglers through these breathtaking landscapes, Daniel's family-operated trips promise not just a fishing journey, but an adventure of a lifetime. From the convenience of Vancouver, BC, dive into an all-inclusive experience that caters to every detail of your trip so you can focus on the thrill of each hookup. Take a look for yourself at nradventures.com/wetflyswing and discover the Northern Rockies like never before. That's N as in Northern, R as in Rockies, adventures.com. You support this podcast by checking in at nradventures.com. Today's episode is sponsored by Togens Fly Shop. Togens Fly Shop provides superior quality products at a great price. They have also a great YouTube channel that you can check out right now with new fly tying tutorials each week. Togens also has you covered if you're looking for unique in-house products, and they also support many of the great brands out there that you know and trust. It's been fun connecting with Justin and the family over the years now, and it's been really cool. A great local fly shop. Togens is also offering their fly tying box, where they send out materials at a regular cadence where you don't even have to think of it. You just open the mailbox, and there's your Togens pack. And I recently made an order through Togens, and the experience is always perfect. They've got you covered if you ever have questions or need any help, whether that's a YouTube tutorial or connecting with them personally. Since 2005, Togens has been over-delivering on customer service, and it's time for you to check out Togens Buzz for yourself. You can head over to wetflyswing.com/Togens right now to check out their diverse selection of products today. You support this podcast by clicking through that link to Togens online. That's Togens, Togens. Okay, back to the show. For your operation, maybe describe that a little more. So you talked about kind of 5 days fishing, something like that. Is this a set day, like people are flying in on a Sunday or day of the week?
We go Saturday to Saturday.
Okay. So maybe describe that a little bit. The first day or so, people fly in. What does that look like?
They fly in, they get picked up by a van. They ride a couple hours up the coast. You usually get in there evening. The rooms are, the lodge really nice, and have a nice dinner. Welcome margarita, and kind of relax first night. And next day we get up. Breakfast is 6:30 to 7, and lunches are packed in the boat right up front. And off they go to wherever the captain wants to take them, what they want to do. And they usually back in around 2 or something. And sometimes we'll do, if people want to do an evening trip, there's a lot of times there's pargo around, like monster cubera snapper. And sometimes people go out at like cocktail hour and go, close. There's a couple of deep spots nearby that hold cubera snapper, and they'll go out and do that for a couple hours, which is a lot of fun for an extra thing to do.
Oh, wow. So snapper, what was it, cubera?
Yeah, dog cheese snapper, cuberas. Or down there at Pargo.
Gotcha. And how are they fishing for those?
That's a bait thing. You would never get one.
Yeah.
I can't see. I mean, I see them in Colombia, people getting them, but it's bait. You're using 2-foot long ladyfish.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And these are giant.
Yeah.
These are kind of like a rockfish looking bait.
Yeah. These are big fangy tooth snapper, and they'll blow up 100-pound line.
Dang, look at that fish. That is amazing. Yeah, they got crazy teeth. Like
crazy teeth. Yeah, I got bit by one time. It wasn't pleasant.
Damn. Wow, that's the cool thing about fishing any of the ocean, but down there's so many of these how many species have you caught over the years? Have you caught lots of different crazy species?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had actually a group that came out from back in the day, Ukraine and Russia, came out, and very enthusiastic fishermen. And one guy wasn't interested in catching big fish. He just wanted to catch as many species as he could. And I think he had like 16 different species by the end of the week, which I think if you put your mind to it, you could probably catch 5 or 10 in a day. There's just a lot of fish. We get African pompano, we get golden trevallies. There's dorado, there's milkfish, there's billfish, there's wahoo, sailfish, marlin, just a lot of species.
Right, God.
Yeah.
There's like 8 right there or so. Gosh.
And it's a beautiful place. I mean, the sea life there is phenomenal. We have orcas down there. We have a side trip to go out and swim with orcas, and different kinds of whales and things like that. So it's just a very, very rich ocean.
Yeah, it is. Cool. And you mentioned, just your typical go in and kind of get your fish in, hang out, have a margarita, a beer, whatever, and then go out the next day.
Well, some people will, come in, relax in the pool or whatever, and then go walk the beach and fish the beach. You can do that too. It's a wide open mile of beach, or go over. There's several beaches right there. If people wanted to just go fish a beach, it's easy enough to do.
There you go. So you could fish all day pretty much if you wanted to just eat a little bit and drink and fish pretty much.
That's pretty much the description of the trip.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Awesome. And then you're out there, and you guys typically, you said 5 days. So kind of 5 days of fishing is your typical crew?
Yeah, 5 or 6. Yeah.
5 or 6. Okay. And what are the others? So we talked about roosterfish. You mentioned some of the other bigger fish. So what are the other people going down there to get some of the big guys?
Oh yeah, people go out for marlin. It's kind of because of the Sea of Cortez in that area. There's a big island there, Cerralvo Island. It's kind of a lot of transient fish moving through. And so sometimes you'll have a week or two where there's just a lot of marlin everywhere. And so that's the fish of the day. You go out and catch marlin. Sometimes you'll have schools of tuna, sitting off the point or off the island somewhere, and they'll just sit there. And so, this is the thing to go do. You go out and catch the tuna, Yeah. The roosterfish might be slow or something like that. Sometimes they'll have, they used to be shark buoys that they put out, these long lines of buoys that they'd have, maybe 10 hooks and another buoy at the end of it. And they'd have those going out for 5 miles, and that would baitfish would come and gather under them. So that'd be a great spot for Dorado, and sometimes Marlin, things like that would come because these baitfish are seeking shelter under it. And so you could cruise out and do these buoy lines and pull up and throw a couple sardines, see if anything's there, or, you often just be able to spot them at the thing swimming around it. So, and then kind of structure for Dorado. Sometimes after a storm, you'll have floating wood out there or something, and you usually find Dorado under it. So during the winter, there's yellowtail, cubera, Sierra, a bunch of different species in the winter time. And so it kind of rotates around. But when I'm there, it's jacks, pompano, roosterfish, marlin, sailfish, tuna, wahoo. This time of year that's cold enough, so wahoo is still around.
Oh, okay. What is, if we were kind of planning a trip, wanted to really hit a good time, what would you say is a good recommended time to hit down there?
For roosters, roosters are there all the way through. And it depends on what you want to do. They're going off right now. They will be, I think, in July. Like I said, I start to see them. They're really aggressive this year. I think it's kind of like a pre-spawn kind of thing. And then by July, I feel like they're really in close on the beach, pairing up, or after they do their thing, they can be aggressive. And so it's a great time to get out on the beach. It's really hot down there, but the beach fishing could be amazing. And they're there all the way through. It just depends on, as the season gets hotter and hotter, you start to see bigger Dorado and bigger billfish, and the roosterfish are still around all the way through. There are ones that'll stick around, but most of the big ones leave at the end of October and migrate out.
Yeah.
And then a wind starts down there. You get a north wind in November that starts up, and it kind of pushes the fishing down, and that's when it moves over to the Pacific side and things get heated up over there.
Okay. And then you head back, you're saying after October, November, you head back to the Rogue area?
Well, I do November, December in Mag Bay for Marlin, and then December, then I head back.
Yeah, so you're there and you fish do you still do some steelhead fishing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, then I'm focused on that, and then steelhead. So I'll summer fish August through September, and then I start back in Mexico October. And then in December, I come back here and I'll winter fish the coast here in Southern Oregon and now, up into Washington all the way through. We're right at the tail end of winter steelhead season, and I'm about to head to Mexico next week. So
there you go.
Just fishing. I also go fish on the East Coast. I'm in Maine visiting family for August. Yeah, so I'm back there striper fishing for all of August.
Oh, yeah, stripers, and that's an awesome one, too.
Yeah, it's great. By the way, Beulah's got a great, that kind of was a spin-off from the switch rod thing. We do two-handed surf rods, which kind of came up with it up there and used them a lot off the coast of Maine there.
Right. So it's just casting spade lines, long belly stuff way out there?
It's really, you can use heads, except you do strip things in. So we made a line for that as well. It's kind of a denser, kind of loaded, just kind of a 30-foot, kind of more condensed head. And so you can throw big flies and distance. You get massive distance. You generate a lot of power. Overhead casting with two hands can generate a lot of power.
Yeah, I think we did an episode a while back, more kind of down in Florida. Somebody was talking about that, using spade rods off of some of the beaches there, kind of what you're talking about. But yeah, so you have, now your lineup with Beulah has pretty much, it sounds like you guys cover everything.
We do. We've got, 3 weights, checked imp rods, single hand rods for trout. We go up to a 7 weight in the freshwater series. And then we have great, saltwater rods, the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and the Opal G2s in saltwater. And then we have 3 of those 2-hand overhead saltwater rods and about, 7 spay rods. And we go all the way up to almost 14 feet. We have 2 6-piece travel rods, a 13-foot 8, 9 weight. Oh, and wow. Then I think it's 13-foot 8, 6-piece 9, 10 weight.
Amazing. Yeah. And I'm looking at them now. They're beautiful. Yeah. You guys definitely have some. So are some of these, is this like custom stuff you're doing, or is it a mix of how are the rods getting produced?
They come from custom, and we do custom rods. If people want to request custom rods and kind of have them rolled here and the cork and things from Oregon, we do that a lot as well. But to keep the price down, we build them overseas in Korea and for some of the factory rods. But they originate from custom designs here.
Yeah. And what's your steelhead? What's your go-to summer steelhead spay rod?
Here, it would be the 12-foot-8 6-weight is definitely, it's already loaded and waiting for me for September.
Yeah.
But we also use, down here, the steelhead, if you get a 10-pound steelhead, a summer steelhead on the road, you're pretty happy down here.
Yeah.
And Klamath too is even a little bit smaller than those. You can get a big one, but that's a good size fish. So I also use our 12-foot 5-weight trout spay as kind of my dry fly rod for summer steelhead, and the 6-weight I'll use for wet flies.
Okay. And then what's your winter steelhead rod, go-to rod?
Winter steelhead rod, I would use the 13-foot 2 7-weight, the 12-8, but probably my favorite one is the new 12-foot 8-weight.
Oh, 12-foot 8-weight. Wow.
Yeah, I can cast that as far as anything. And, if you get in some tight coastal streams, it's great. It casts a, good distance, and it's a great fish for finding bigger steelhead. And, was up in Washington this year, and it was just a perfect rod up there.
There you go. Okay. A couple of good rods we could check out. Well, anything else we want to talk about on your program down there, down south on the Baja that we missed today?
I would say what makes it stand out is that the lodging is above average, and it's very comfortable and convenient. It's right, the fishing's right at your feet. It's right there. And it's a great place for families. I've been bringing my family there since they were born, my kids, in 2005.
Right. So it's totally safe down there. Sometimes you hear people talking about how it's dangerous in Mexico.
Totally safe. We've done a lot for years. We're doing, Yellow Dog was doing family groups down there. We'd have, 8 or 10 families that would, all the kids. Their timing was perfect because those years were just amazing. The fishing was off the hook, especially for billfish, and they were all in close, and all these kids that were like 10 to 16 years old are landing billfish. It was pretty incredible.
On a fly?
Some of them on a fly, some of them on bait.
Yeah.
And people were actually, I know one boat was fishing for a roosterfish inshore, and they had a double hookup of roosterfish and a billfish that close to shore. It was just a crazy couple of weeks of fishing, but
yeah.
So it has the capacity to do larger groups, but the general feel is it's kind of intimate. You're secluded. No one's going to bother you. It's very private and quiet, and really nice accommodations. So.
And have you seen some of those billfish or whatever species? The numbers aren't. Have they gone up and down over the years?
Yeah, everything's been cyclical. I see it with roosterfish. I see it with tuna. A lot of it, in my mind, has to do with water temperatures and the consistency of water temperature. It's not only, that when things get too hot, everything is tortured by that, but the bait, everything starts with the bait and what the bait eats. And when you have a season where the temperatures are fluctuating and it's kind of out of season, like going, it'll be hot in the spring, and then it cools off in July, and it's up and down. I find that is the more damaging than most things I've seen there. It's fish can't. I think they're very temperature sensitive, and they can't take fluctuations like that. So when you get an El Nino year like we had in '97, and that kind of set things weird for quite a few years, and then it's leveled off again and got great. And we'll see what we get this year, but it's been good. It's been really good.
Good. Well, this is perfect. I think we will, definitely send people down your way, and we'll put some links in the show notes. Let's take it out here with our fun fact segment. This is always, I love to get a random fun fact to take it away. So let's think of this for roosterfish. Maybe just think of your operation, roosterfish, or anything you have going. Maybe think of a fun fact that we can kind of add in the show notes that people can think about. And as you're thinking about
fun
that
fact, hold on.
Yeah. Do you need a moment?
Give me 1 sec. Yeah, I'll come up with a fun fact here.
I go into the species stuff is interesting because roosterfish to me is just one of those crazy fish. It's got this dorsal fin, which is like a crazy alien thing. And I want to hear more about that, but I don't know if there's anything, as you're down there, you just kind of think of that's popped up over the years about, that area maybe of Mexico, or because, I haven't been down there. There's probably a lot of people that haven't been down there that don't know much about Mexico. Maybe like you said, they're a little bit afraid. Maybe they're a little worried to take the family down there. But it sounds like that's not, like you said, that's not an issue.
It's not. I mean, certainly you can go to places and get yourself in trouble.
Yeah. How could you do that? How would you do that?
Well, Cabo is one of those places that it's a tourist spot, and tourists are known to go down there and get drunk, and most of the police and then the people down there are helpful and great, but you get a bad apple and they'll take, they might take advantage of you if you're stumbling around or you're driving the wrong way down a one-way street, something like that, or trying to buy drugs. That can happen in any city. It really, all the things you would apply to going into any inner city, you would, behave the same way in Mexico. You wouldn't expect any different, but it's, like I said, I've been going there for, over 35 years.
Yeah.
Knock wood, without incident. and
never had an incident.
Yeah. And I brought my kids down there. Boy, fun fact, you put me on the spot with that one. Let me
I'm just looking up. I'm just looking up a couple now. I'm looking at some fast facts online here on the Roosterfish. Not coming up with anything yet, but
there's not many studies done on them, not much information. They're not a super fast growing fish from what I've asked for by, I'm friends with a lot of the commercial people, and I have been for a long time. And they say that, a fish that's 60 pounds is only 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So they're fast growers.
Reasonably, it's not like a Dorado. A Dorado, that would be, 3 years old. Dorado is one of the fastest growing fish in the ocean.
Gotcha.
I don't know that for a fact. That's just what my commercial buddies tell me. I would think it'd be longer, but who knows? They are voracious eaters, and just an amazing animal, beautiful animal.
That's perfect. Yeah, I'm just looking at some other. Well, what we'll do is put some fun facts in the show notes of this episode. We've got a bunch here.
If I think it's something, I'll send you it. I'm sure I've got some tucked away in there. I just can't pull them out right now.
Well, good. So this is our random segment. So a couple of the random ones, and these actually are ones we love to ask. But so when you're on heading down on your trip, are you listening to, like on a road trip, more music or podcasts? What do you listen to?
I would say both. Depending. Certainly, I used to drive it for 20 years. I drove down there, and that was all music. That was before. Before podcasts. Nice. Yeah, so it was music.
What were you listening to back then? What was your music of choice or band type of music?
Oh God, I know Stones, Zeppelin. Then you get Talking Heads in the 90s and that kind of thing. Yeah. And Frank Zappa. I love Zappa.
Oh, nice. Zappa.
Yeah.
All right. We always try to throw something in the show notes, and then maybe we'll throw it on a reel or something. But yeah, we'll get some either Zappa or maybe some Stones out there.
Yeah. I mean, I have a wide range. I love jazz. I love Miles Davis. I love all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Reggae. I love reggae.
Okay, good and awesome. And then the final one, we've been doing a beginner kind of fly fishing segment for people that are kind of getting in new to the podcast here. But so if you look back at your beginner fly fisher self, what would be a tip you would give that, yourself back then, if you could, what you know now?
Be careful wading. Because that's probably one of the first lessons is don't wade too deep, and make sure you have some good grip on your soles of your boots, because everyone goes in when they start wading. And if you really want to get, I remember one of the things that anchored me to fly fishing was I played a lot of sports as a kid, and after my father took me to Montana, I blew out my ACL, and I was laid up for a while. My father got me this Orvis fly tying kit, and years later, I never did anything with it. And years later, I was on the McLeod with my wife fishing, and we were sitting on this rock, and we knocked our fly boxes off, and they drifted down the river. And we were there for a week. We had no flies, and I found that Orvis box in the car, and I broke it out, and we managed to tie some flies and hooked up on those flies, and that was
That's
it.
cool.
It was, addiction right away. So it's awesome. a great, well-rounded way to understand fly fishing and be into it. If you tie the flies and they get fish, you really understand the environment and what they're eating and how they eat and how the bugs work. And it's just a kind of a great natural science lesson.
That's cool. Do you still do any trout fishing?
I'm going to go this weekend to the McLeod.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So you're still going. You're doing everything, still into the trout.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard here because the steelheading's so good, but I'm...
Has steelhead been good on the Rogue?
It is. Yeah. It has been good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. That's what, when we were talking about John, he was saying the same thing, how, the numbers of steelhead have been kind of on a downtrend, a lot of the Pacific Rim, but it sounds like the Rogue, it hasn't had the same thing.
Yeah, I don't want to bring people here, but the Rogue's been good, and so has the Klamath. And I lost a beast on the North Umpqua last couple of weeks ago too. So
oh, wow.
we're hanging in there.
Yeah, you're in a good spot. Nice. Well, I think we can leave it there. We've got some other good stuff going. I think I'm going to check in with people on the podcast to see who, maybe we can check in with you later to get a trip if you have some room down the line.
Okay.
We can talk more about that. But yeah, we'll send everybody out, like we said at the start, to BeulahFlyRods.com. They can connect there and pick your brain on Roosterfish or anything else you have going. And yeah, thanks for all your time today, James.
Yep. Flyfishmex.com would be the other one too.
Yeah, flyfishmex.com. We'll put that in the show notes as well. And when they go there, they can just kind of take a look at the programs we talked about here with Roosters and your program.
Yep.
Perfect. All right, James. Hey, thanks for your time. We'll be in touch and looking forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks so much, Dave.
There's another great trip that we've talked about, we've thought about over the years, Roosterfish. It's definitely one that we all got to get going on, and not an easy one. Another one that's one of the great ones, not an easy one. But we definitely love how James put this all together today, and love that we finally talked Beulah and got that story on the podcast. You can follow this show really quick. Just click that follow button, little plus button if you're on Apple Podcasts. That's the easiest way to assure that you get that next episode delivered to your inbox. And we've got a great program that's coming up. We haven't announced it yet, but if you want to check it out and get your name on the waiting list, wetflyswing.com/pro. And you can check this out. And this is not your typical pro account. This is not your typical pro fly fishing pro. This is actually for all of us, really, whoever wants to take your game the next step further and really have a better time out on the water. We're going to be exploring this and sharing more about it this year, but you can add your name right now, save your spot, and we'll be following up with you when we open this thing up. All right, we are turning the corner, and summer is just right there, so we're excited for that, and hopefully the water stay a little cooler as we move through the summer, and maybe even get a little sprinkle of a shower in July this year. That would be awesome. All right, hope you have a great day, and definitely look forward to catching you on that next episode. And if you haven't checked us out, if you're new to the podcast, definitely send me an email, Dave@WetFlySwing anytime. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.